Hi everyone, welcome to YogaRenew's YouTube channel. I'm Patrick, one of the yoga directors. In this video, we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at exactly what it means when your favorite yoga teacher says, take a comfortable cross-legged seat. Before we get into some of those options, let's take a step back and look at what exactly the word seat means in the canon of yoga. The word asana is often translated as posture or pose, but another common translation for the word asana is the word seat. And some believe that practicing the postures or the poses is actually preparation for the yoga practitioner to find a comfortable cross-legged seat. And guess why? To practice the higher states of yoga such as pranayama or meditation. That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. So the poses that we do, the standing poses, the standing balances, the twists, the seated poses, the inversions, they are all preparation to make the body strong and flexible so that when we sit down on the ground, our body is relaxed so that we can work on the breath and the mind. Another thing I want to point out is that when we are sitting on the ground, most of us need to elevate our hips a little bit so that our legs can relax. I'm sitting on a meditation cushion right now, but you might sit up on 2 blankets or more. You can even sit up on a bolster, or 2 blocks are all excellent choices. The main thing you want to look at when you're sitting up on something is that your hip creases, which are where your leg bones and your pelvis meet, are a little bit higher than your knees. When your hip creases are higher than your knees, it allows your spine the space to elongate while your legs relax down. Okay, so let's get started. The first pose we're going to look at here is Sukhasana or easy seat. Is there a better name than easy seat? It might not be easy for all of us, which is why there are a few more options, but easy seat or Sukhasana is my personal preference for starting class in a comfortable cross-legged seat. We're going to actually start, however, with our legs extended in Dandasana. So take your legs forward if you're joining me. Here we are, Dandasana, staff pose. We're going to bend our legs, and then we're going to cross our right shin over our left, right in the middle, creating an X. From here, I let my knees relax so that they rest on top of my feet. The next piece that you want to look at is making sure your shins are parallel to the front of your mat. Sometimes students pull their feet way in, and it gets a little sloppy with the seat. We want the seat to be symmetrical and comfortable so our legs can relax and our spine can lift up. So we do want to make sure that the shins are parallel to the front of our mat and our feet are underneath our knees. You might notice because I'm sitting up on this meditation cushion, here are my hip creases, my knees sit slightly below that. Once that happens, I'm going to take my hands by my sides, gently press down, and lift my chest up and relax my legs. And here I am in Sukhasana, easy seat. Another thing I want to point out is that when you are sitting in a cross-legged seat, you probably will select one leg to go in front of the other. I selected to put my right leg in front of my left because I know inherently for me, that feels better. It is important, though, that every time you come into Sukhasana, you alternate the crossing of the legs. So today, I chose to put my right leg in front of my left, but the next time I practice, I will put my left leg in front of my right. And over time, it makes the symmetry between my leg bones and my pelvis become more harmonious. All right, that's Sukhasana, easy seat. The next pose we're going to look at is Siddhasana. And Siddhi is a divine being, and this asana is the seat of a divine being. So let's start together in Dandasana again. We'll extend our legs straight. Staff pose, feet together. Now I'm going to bend my legs just like I did with Sukhasana. This time, however, I'm going to take my left leg out to the side, and I'm going to put the top of my shin and the top of my foot flat on the floor. I'm going to bring my heel in line with my pubic bone. That's part one. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my right leg. I'm going to bend it. I'm going to lay it out to the side. And then again, I'm trying to get the top of my foot and ankle and shin on the floor, and I'm going to line up my heels with my pubic bone. So I have heel, heel, 2 leg bones down. My legs relax. I'm going to use my hands again by my sides. I'm going to press down, elevate my chest as my legs go down. And here we are in Siddhasana, the seat of a divine being. You might have noticed I bent my left leg in first, put my right leg in front. Just like I said about Sukhasana, it is important when you're choosing one of these cross-legged seats to alternate the crossing of your legs over time. So the next time I would sit in Siddhasana, I would bend my right leg in first and put my left leg in front. Okay, so that's Siddhasana. We've looked at Sukhasana and Siddhasana. The next seat we're going to look at is Virasana or Hero's Pose. Virasana is a little bit different because it's not a cross-legged seat. We actually sit up on the tops of the feet and shins and bend our knees and our feet go straight back. So for this pose, let's start on our hands and our knees. You're going to start with your knees together and your feet as wide as your hips. So there's space between your feet. I know that I cannot sit all the way down to the floor, so I'm going to use my meditation cushion right between my feet and ankles. If you don't have a meditation cushion, you can put a block between your feet and ankles. You can also put a folded blanket. But the idea is that the feet rest right outside your pelvis so that your hips, if you were to sit all the way on the floor, you would sit right down between your inner feet. Okay? Knees are parallel. The feet are pointing straight back. From here, I'm going to take my hands again, press down into the earth, and elevate my spine. So the legs settle down, that provides grounding, and then I use my hands gently pressing down to elevate my spine. This is Virasana, Hero's Pose. It's an excellent choice. I would say that most students need to use some type of prop between their feet and ankles just to get that little bit extra lift of their pelvis and their spine. The next pose that we're going to look at is Padmasana or Lotus Pose. For me, it's the quintessential seat of the yogi. You often see images or pictures of famous yogis sitting in lotus pose, meditating or doing breathing practices. Even pictures of the Buddha is often in Padmasana or Lotus Pose. This is a challenging pose. It's probably the most challenging of the choices of seats that we're going to look at, but it is a classic pose for seated meditation and breathing practices because it keeps the legs down and lifts and elevates the spine. And because of that, you can sit calmly and freely and focus on your breath and your mind. So let's start in Dandasana first. Dandasana, staff pose. So I'm going to bend my right leg first. I'm going to lay it out to the side, similar to what we looked at in Siddhasana. The difference now is that this foot, the top of my foot and ankle, is going to come to the root of my left thigh and leg. So I'm going to lift this foot and shin and place it on the root of my left thigh. It is very important that the thigh bone and knee come down to the floor. The second piece is to repeat what I did on the right side to the left side. So I'll bend my leg, turn it out to the side. So many students are only able to do what we consider a half lotus. So they'll have one foot on top, and instead of bringing the other foot on top of the thigh, they might just slide it under. And if you remember what I talked about with cross-legged seats, if you're doing this half lotus like this, the next time you sit in a half lotus, you might switch the crossing of the legs. But we're going to look at full lotus, full Padmasana. So instead of having the foot under the knee, I'm going to take the top of this foot and bring it to the root of my right thigh. Leg stays down. I'm going to guide this foot up and over my shin so that the feet hold the leg bones down. And remember what I said, when the legs relax, I can use my hands and lift the spine. And I feel free all the way up through the crown of my head, that I can focus on my breath and my mind. The quintessential seat of the yogi, Padmasana. Remember, now I'm in full lotus. The next time I practice, I will switch the crossing of my legs, leading with my left leg first, followed by my right. The one thing I do want to mention with cross-legged poses is that you're going to have a side that you prefer and a side that you don't prefer. In a pose like Padmasana, you don't want to force both sides to be exactly the same. So if it's a little more challenging for you to cross into Padmasana with your left leg first, if you feel any pain in your inner knees at all, don't push it. Stick with half lotus or Ardha Padmasana instead. Okay, the last pose that we're going to look at is a simple seat in a chair. And using a chair in yoga is a great invention that I think BKS Iyengar started bringing into the yoga practice. So if you have students that coming down to the floor is just not working, using a chair is always, always, always a great option for your students so that their legs can relax and most importantly, their spine can lift up. So let's take a look at a seat in a yoga chair. So now let's look at taking a seat in an actual chair. It's not just sitting in a chair. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. In order to be able to get the nice lift of our spine and the relaxation of the legs that we're looking for. First thing is to bring your feet underneath your knees. So I'll bring my feet underneath my knees. My knees are about hip distance wide. The second thing, just like all the other postures we looked at, is that the hip creases need to be slightly higher than the knees. Now, if you have a seat or a chair that's sloped down slightly, you might actually put a folded blanket on top of the chair seat in order to elevate your hips a little bit more. Mine are pretty good, so I'm not going to put a blanket on top of the seat, but just know, depending on the height of your chair, that you might also need to put a blanket down. Once you have your knees over your heels, your hips higher than your knees, you can take your hands and grab the edges of the chair seat and press down to elevate your chest. Just like that. And the benefit of sitting in a chair is that you actually can use your feet by pressing down. That also gives you some information in order for you to lift your spine. So I have my hands on the side of the chair, I have my heels pressing down, and I can really elevate and lift my chest. Once I do that, I can place my hands on my thighs, and I'm ready, sitting comfortably, long spine, yet relaxed, to work on my pranayama or my meditation practice. So there you have it. We just covered some of the classic choices for finding your seat in the beginning or end of a yoga class. But let's just do a quick recap of some of the key points. Number one, the word asana is sometimes translated as seat. So if you think about your own practice of all the poses and postures, in a way, it's preparation for your body to become flexible and strong in order to sit comfortably so that you can work on pranayama and meditation, which are the higher states of yoga. Secondly, when choosing a seat, it is important for your leg bones to stay relaxed or your hip creases to be higher than your knees so that your spine can elongate. When your spine elongates, your body is in a restful place and your mind can be free and open to work on these more introspective pieces of the yoga practice. Of course, finding a comfortable seat isn't the only option to start or end a yoga class. In fact, you might find that your students hate starting seated at all. So another option is to simply lie flat on their back in Shavasana. That's always a great alternative to the choices that we just laid out here. And if you love this content, don't forget to smash this like button on this video. And of course, subscribe to YogaRenew's YouTube channel to get more information just like this on yoga poses, yoga practice, yoga lifestyle, and of course, teaching yoga. All right, we'll see you on the mat next time.